Okay. So surface area of rectangular prisms. So surface area is a type of area. When you solve for area, like last year, area of a triangle, a circle, a square, a rectangle, what exponent do you use with your units? A 2. It's squared. Anytime you're dealing with area, it's squared. We are dealing with surface area, which is a type of area. So you're going to have to kind of squeeze this on the line here, but surface area is the number of square units that it takes to cover all the surfaces of a three-dimensional object. So this year we'll be finding surface area of a rectangular prism, and then next week we'll talk about surface area of a cylinder, but it is a measure of the area of the outside surfaces. Okay? So a rectangular prism has how many sides? Think about like a number cube or dice. It has 6 sides or 6 faces. So surface area of a rectangular prism is the sum, which is what operation? Addition. Meaning you're adding up the areas of all 6 of those faces. Okay? So you could find the area of one face, another, and do it. You have to find the area 6 times. This formula kind of condenses things for you. So you don't have to find the area 6 times. You only have to find the area 3 times. Because if I have a rectangular prism like a tissue box, okay, if I find the area of the top of the tissue box, and let's say that is 10 centimeters squared, what other side or what other face of the tissue box is also going to be 10 centimeters squared?
Front and back.
If the top is 10 centimeters squared, what's going to be the same as it? The bottom. The faces that are opposite each other will have the same area. Now the front and back would have the same area as each other, and the left and the right would have the same area as each other. So you really only have to find the area 3 times, and you're just doubling each of those areas because there is a face that's opposite it that has the same area. Now, before we dive into all of this, these are 3-dimensional shapes. When we did volume, we said your units are cubed because it's a 3-dimensional shape, which is true. But why do you think you might have like a guess or an idea as to why we're not using a 3? We're not cubing our units for surface area when we did for volume?
It's basically perimeter, so it wants that outside.
Okay. It's not perimeter, but it is the measure of the outside. So, does anybody recycle at home? Okay, even if you don't recycle, if you put cardboard, whether it's in the recycling bin or in your trash can, your parents probably don't want it to take up as much space, right? So you can fit more stuff in there before you have to take it out. So what might you do to your boxes before you put them in there? Either fold them or
Crush.
you can take them apart, right? You can either fold them, like you'd have to take off, like separate maybe the top and the bottom and then just squish it together, or you could completely unfold it, right? And if you unfold it, that's a flat surface, okay? When we're dealing with flat surfaces, it's 2-dimensional. So all you would have are 6 different rectangles. That's why surface area uses a 2 instead of a 3 for your exponent. It is essentially 2-dimensional. You're finding the area of 6 different faces, but area is 2-dimensional. So if you were to take apart a rectangular prism, a box, it would be flat. And so that's why it's a little bit different from volume in terms of our units. So they are square units. So we're going to find the surface area. Remember, when we are dealing with these formulas, you need to pay attention to 2 things. You need to pay attention to the shape and then what you're calculating. So we're calculating the surface area, and these are rectangular prisms. I'm going to be doing a lot of writing in my notes. I want you to do the same. That way, when you look back, you know where these numbers are coming from. And if you don't have Desmos because your laptop's at home, it's dead and you don't have the charger, it's in the depot because something happened to it, you will still be responsible for doing your work in class. You would just need to use a handheld calculator. It's a little bit more work that way because you got to go a little bit more step by step. You can't just throw it all in Desmos and have it do its magic for you. So I'm going to show the steps that you would need to do if you had to work this out by hand. Okay. On your classwork, I'm not going to make you go through all of these steps, but in your notes, I'm asking you to write it. Okay. The very first thing you need to do is write your formula, especially when you're doing your classwork, and I'm not saying that you have to show all of the steps along the way of calculating the formula, because maybe you typed everything in your calculator correctly, but you started with the wrong formula, like for the wrong shape, or you used the volume formula instead of the surface area formula. So the very first thing I always want you to do is just write the formula. So our formula for surface area of a rectangular prism, 2LW plus 2LH, I'm going to go on the next line for the rest of this, plus 2WH, okay? I'm just copying it from up here. Next thing we need to do is we need to substitute in values. This is the part I'm saying I will show you how you can do this kind of the long way or the quick way using replacement value, but we're writing all of this down. When you are dealing with a rectangular prism, it does not matter what you decide to be length, width, or height, because again, if you rotate it, it would look different. It makes a difference for cylinders with radius and height. For rectangular prisms, it doesn't matter. For purposes of our notes, I'm going to make this bottom side here, the 4 inches, the length. I'm going to make the width, the 5 inches up here, and I'm going to make the height the 7 inches. That way when we all plug in our numbers, they all kind of get plugged in the same way. Alright, so I'm going to substitute in for L, that will be a 4. So I'm multiplying in this first like grouping of numbers. It's twice the length times the width, right? So the length was 4, the width was 5. So that's like my first grouping right there. Then my next like grouping of numbers was twice the length times the height. I'm going to write this down here. So my length again was 4, my height I decided was 7. And then my last grouping, twice the width times the height. Our width we decided was 5, and our height was 7. Okay? So I can type this in like this into my calculator. You can use parentheses. I like to use the parentheses. I think it just looks neater. If you would rather use the time symbol on the calculator, you can do that. Same thing. So I'm going to type this in 2 times 4 times 5 plus 2 times 4 times 7 plus 2 times 5 times 7. And that will give me a surface area of 166. What were my units? Inches. And because this is surface area, it is a type of area, I square my units. The other way I could do this, and I would probably, if it were me, I would use this second method for surface area. It was not necessarily as helpful for volume because the formula wasn't as crazy, but for surface area it is. So I can type in my formula. So I have 2LW plus 2LH plus 2WH. You would just have to tell Desmos what your length, your width, and your height are. So length we said would be 4. Again, if you're doing this on your own, you could have mixed them up and used width could have been 4. Totally up to you. For this, our width is 5 and our height is 7. Now, if you look up top here, it has not given me a calculation yet. In fact, if I hover over the triangle, it says this calculator cannot support this type of equation. There is something I do have to tweak about how I have this entered in the calculator in order for it to work. Does anybody have any ideas of what I might do?
I took off the SA equals and it's still.
You can absolutely do that. You can get rid of the SA equals, just type like what is on the other side of the equal sign and it will work just fine, okay? You also could just do S equals. By having the S and the A next to each other, it confuses Desmos. It thinks that those are two different variables we're multiplying together. And all we're doing is just writing an equation. So the S and the A, they're not different variables that represent different things. So either get rid of it entirely or just shorten it to S equals, okay? And I will get the same thing, the 166. All right, so for our next one, start by writing the formula. So SA equals, surface area equals 2LW plus 2LH plus 2WH, okay? I'm going to mix up what I make my length, width, and height a little bit. For this, I'm going to keep kind of my left to right side here, my length, the 15. I'm going to make my width the 4.2, and the height will be the 2.75. So plugging in those values now, my surface area is equal to 2 times my length times my width, which is 15 and 4.2, plus my next grouping of numbers, twice my length times my height. So that's 15 and 2.75. And then my last grouping of numbers, twice my width times my height. So that is 4.2 and 2.75. Does anybody have the answer for that? Do you have it? Do you have it? What'd you get?
231.6
Not inches, what is it?
meters.
Meters. And we're not squaring it anymore. We're not cubing it anymore. We're squaring it because it's area. So meters squared. Question? All right, moving on to number 3. So do we know, this is a special type of rectangular prism. Do we know what type of rectangular prism this is? And I'm going to kind of get rid of the calculator since a lot of you guys have your calculators up and can help me with the actual calculations. What type of a rectangular prism is it? Okay, so all of the faces are squares. So what is a 3-dimensional square called? A cube. Good. So this, you can still use the same formula. 2LW plus 2LH plus 2WH. All of my length, width, and height are all the same, right? So they're all 7. So when I substitute my values in, so 2 times 7 times 7 plus 2 times 7 times 7 plus 2 times 7 times 7. And what is our surface area of this cube? 294. What are my units? Centimeters, and it is squared because it is surface area. All right, and then my cereal box. So again, an example of something you might be like taking apart to put in the trash or the recycling. I think I can fit my formula all the way across here on one line. So I'm going to do that. 2LW plus 2LH plus 2WH. I'm going to make my length the 15 this time to mix things up. The width will be 10, and I'm going to make the height 3. So when I substitute these values in, 15 for the length, 10 for the width. So again, once you decide what's going to be length, width, and height, every time you see an L, you put the same number in that spot. Every time you see a W, you put the same number. Every time you see an H, you put the same number. Okay. My next grouping of numbers, so 2 times, again, length of 15, the height is 3. And my last grouping of numbers, 2 times, my width is 10, and my height is 3. That would give me a total surface area of, so when I substitute these values in, 15 for the length, 10 for the width. So again, once you decide what's going to be length, width, and height, every time you see an L, you put the same number in that spot. Every time you see a W, you put the same number. Every time you see an H, you put the same number. Okay. My next grouping of numbers, so 2 times, again, length of 15, the height is 3. And my last grouping of numbers, 2 times, my width is 10, and my height is 3. That would give me a total surface area of
225 inches squared.
Did you leave out the 2?
It's 450.
Should be 450.
I left that.
Yeah. So, because that was exactly half of it. 450. This was inches squared. And then we have a couple of word problems. So with these word problems, obviously this is a notes page that is on surface area of rectangular prisms. So we know what formula we're using because of the notes page it's on. Realistically, when you take a test, your SOL, things are all going to be mixed up. They're not grouped like that. So you're going to have to decide what shape you're dealing with and what formula to use based on what you're solving for. So you want to cover a footstool with new material. The footstool is a cube with sides of 18 inches. How much material do you need? So first of all, what shape am I dealing with?
Square, rectangular. Cube.
Okay, it is a cube, which is a type of rectangular prism. And then what word indicates or tells me that I am solving for surface area?
Like cover?
Yeah, exactly. Cover. Anytime you're dealing with the outside of your rectangular prism, okay? Like the sides of a box, if you were finding the surface area of that cereal box or that present. The outside of the rectangular prism is going to be your surface area. The inside, like when you're filling it, that's volume. So volume is inside, surface area is outside. So what do you cover? You cover the outside of something. So that's telling us surface area. And the sides are 18 inches. So I know what formula I'm using. It's the formula for surface area of a rectangular prism. 2LW plus 2LH plus 2WH. And then I have to plug in each of my values. So yeah, since it's a cube where it says the sides are 18 inches, what that means is your length, width, and height are all going to be the same. They are all 18. So it's kind of like that present up top, except for instead of all of your variables being replaced with a 7, they're going to be replaced with an 18. So 2 times 18 times 18 plus 2 times 18 times 18 plus 2 times 18 times 18.
1,944 inches squared.
Perfect. 1,944 inches squared. And then our last one, you are wrapping a birthday present for your friend. The present is a rectangular prism, so it does come straight out and tell us the shape here, with a length of 3 inches, width of 2 inches, and height of 4 inches. How much wrapping paper do you need to wrap the gift? So I know my shape. How do I know that I am solving for surface area? What word?
Wrap.
Yeah. If you're wrapping something or using wrapping paper, you are covering the outside of it. So since you're dealing with the outside, that is surface area. So surface area of a rectangular prism is the formula that we're using. So 2LW plus 2LH plus 2WH. I substitute in my values. So this straight up told me what my length, width, and height are. I don't even have to pick. So length is 3, my width is 2, and my height is 4. I substitute those values in for my variables. So 2 times length and width are 3 and 2,
52 inches squared.
plus 2 times my length times height, so that's 3 and 4, plus 2 times my width times my height, so that's 2 and 4. And what was the total surface area?
52 inches squared.
52 inches squared. And just so that we have it written somewhere in our notes, inches squared is the same as square inches. So if you see that on a test, like with answer choices, they mean the same thing, and square, a lot of times they abbreviate just SQ. So 52 inches squared or 52 square inches, it is the same thing.